Good morning. Today we look at Matthew 14, 22 through 36. And right after Jesus had fed the 5,000 men plus the women and children yesterday, it starts and it says immediately he made the disciples get into the boat. Well, he dismissed the crowds and he went up on this mountain by himself to pray. And so right after he's fed these people, I mean, it's, late evening, and he sends the disciples in the boat to go to the other side of the sea. And, they've kind of got to wonder, I mean, what's going on? Why isn't Jesus coming with us, but he dismisses the crowds as, the disciples had said, send the crowds home because we can't feed them. But then after he feeds them, he disperses the crowd, sends them home, tells them, go back about your business, go back about your homes, we'll go back, get back into your lifestyle. And he went up to pray. And it says, when evening came, he was there alone. So, I mean, it wasn't late at night when all of this happened, but when evening came, Jesus is alone up on the mountain praying, talking with God. And we find that so often that Jesus models for us that to take time to pray, to take time out of our busy schedules to pray. And I know there have been times in my life that I have felt just, under the gun for trying to get everything done. It feels like there's just not enough time in the day. And I've read, places where it says, if you're busy, spend 10 minutes in prayer. If you're really busy, spend an hour in prayer. And it's just a reminder for us that sometimes in everything that's going on in our lives, we get so wrapped up in the doing that we forget to take time to, ask God to be a part of who we are, to ask God to ease our burdens and to just, for the strength to get through each and every day that way. But Jesus goes up on the mountain to pray. And then it says when evening came, he was there alone, but by this time, the boat, battered by waves, was far from land. So in the evening, when Jesus is up on the mountain, already the boat is far from shore and being battered by waves. And then, the disciples are fighting against that. The wind was against them. And then early in the morning, some versions will say in the fourth watch, or I think the fourth watch, but that would be between 3 and 6 o'clock in the morning. So early in the morning, since evening the night before, the disciples have been in this boat. And granted, they're fishermen. They should be used to that. But, being fishermen, they knew better than to get out, in the storms. They didn't like to get out in the storms. And they fished more often closer to shore. But anyway, all of that besides the point, they've been fighting since evening till early morning. And then all of a sudden, they see Jesus. It says they saw him walking on the sea. They were terrified, exclaiming, "It's a ghost." I mean, why wouldn't we think something like that? I mean, to see somebody, something walking on the water, it doesn't happen. And then Jesus speaks. He says immediately. I mean, this is one of the places where Matthew uses the words immediately. Normally, Mark is one of those that in his gospel, everything is boom, 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 immediately, immediately, immediately. But, Jesus hears their exclamation, "It's a ghost." He feels their fear, their dread. He knows that they're worn out from battering the wind and the waves all night long. And he speaks. He says, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." I mean, be of good cheer, have strength. I mean, but these words they got to seem just empty to the disciples, for Jesus to say, "Take heart, it's me." Well, yeah, okay. So what's going to happen now? And then this "do not fear." It's another one of the times we hear those words in the Bible. Do not fear, do not be afraid, fear not. And, Jesus could just as easily have been, quoted as saying, "Fear not, for I am with you," or "Fear not, for I am here." And it's a reminder to us that, we all have storms in our lives. We do. We've got stuff that goes on. But in and through it all, sometimes we're, like I said earlier, we're so busy and wrapped up in what's going on that we forget to take time for God. We forget to pray. We forget that God is with us, that God isn't leaving us alone in all of these struggles. And so here's Jesus on the water, said, take heart, it's me. And Peter, in the midst of this storm, says, if it's you, Lord, command me to walk to you. Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. And a single word command, come. Come. And as I read that earlier today, I thought, it's just come. And Peter gets out of the water and he goes. There's another place where Jesus says, come unto me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. So often, we think of that come unto me as an invitation. Maybe we should think of that come as a command. Rather than, Jesus inviting us to come to him, but it's a command for us to put our cares on him, put our burdens on him, to trust in him, and to trust that God is with us. Anyway, the command come. Peter gets out of the boat and begins to walk to Jesus. And he's doing fine until he looks down. He sees the waves, he hears the wind, and it's, I can't do this. This is crazy. What am I doing out here? And he begins to sink. And he cries out, Lord, save me. And Jesus reaches his hand out, takes Peter and saves him. And it's another one of those examples for us that, when we reach out to God, he hears. When we reach out to God, he will help us with this comfort and with this rest. He will help us to deal with these problems. He isn't, he doesn't just make them all go away. For Peter, he was sinking in the water. The waves and the wind were horrible. But Jesus reached out and saved him. Meanwhile, the waves in the water are still, just in turmoil. But when they get in the boat, then the waves cease and the wind quiets. It says, verse 32, when they got in the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped him. Truly, you are the Son of God. Another story where Jesus is in the boat with the stormy, it's, who is this, that even the wind and the waves obey him? But here, Jesus in Matthew's gospel doesn't say anything. He doesn't speak to the wind or the waves, but when he gets in the boat, and it, again, when Jesus is with you, and it helps calm the troubles and the fears, and it's not like this, the storms of our lives aren't just going to immediately disappear. But to know that Jesus is sitting beside us in all of this chaos and everything brings us peace of heart and mind. I truly believe that. I truly believe that we get comfort from knowing and believing that Jesus is with us, that God cares about who we are. The boat then in a little bit, crosses over and comes to land at Gennesaret. And it says, after the people of that land recognized him, they brought all to him who were sick and lame and anybody that had troubles. And Jesus healed them. Some of them, it says, just to touch his cloak. They might touch the fringe of his cloak, and all who touched it were healed. The power in our wondering, in our belief that is still kind of not, complete. I don't know, but we just wonder sometimes, can God do all of this? But for here, when Jesus was on the earth, just to touch his cloak was all that was needed. And we have another story in the Bible about a woman who had been bleeding for years, touching Jesus' cloak, and immediately is healed. And it's a reminder for us to put our trust in God, to put our trust in Jesus, to cast our burdens upon him, and just to know that, when Jesus says, come to me with all your problems, come to me, let me know, talk to me in prayer. And Jesus modeled that in the beginning of our lesson today. He took time to go up on the mountain to pray. He was up there from early evening until, early morning, several hours that Jesus was there spending time with his Father in prayer. And I think that's a good model for us to remember that, there's never too long a prayer. I mean, God is not going to get tired of listening to us. We can come to him, oh, God, here I am, badgering you again. Well, God doesn't look at it as being badgered. He looks at us as trusting children coming to him with our cares and with our worries and asking him for help and for guidance.